Well, ladies, May is a very special time of the year when we get to celebrate our moms. And so, this is what we're going to do. We're going to celebrate our moms, and I'm so excited to have you here, Amanda, Carissa, Paula, and Christy. So, thank you for being here today. I appreciate that. Oh, come on now. He's like, I'm in school.
No, we're glad you're glad we're here.
Oh, thank you. When you watch television, sports, whatever, and the camera's panning the audience, what do most people say?
Hi, Mom.
Exactly right. What do you think about that?
I think they want their mom to be proud of them more than anyone else.
Yeah.
I think that maybe that's probably one of the most important people in their life, is their mom.
Dads are important too, but moms are the ones that run around taking lessons and going to baseball practice and what have you. So yeah, they do all of that. Tell me some funny stories about your mom. What's a funny story that you remember about your mom?
Oh gosh, okay, so to this day, if my mom is reading out loud, it doesn't matter what it is, each person in the story or whatever, they have their own voices, they have their own mannerisms, and it cracks me up. And I've tried to do it with my own kids. I don't think I measure up, but I just love her whimsy that she brings to everything. That's one of my favorite things that she does.
I love it. Carissa.
Yeah, well, that made me think of when my mother would read a story called The Best Nest, which is like, the best kids book ever. And there was a little song in there that said, Mr. Bird would sing every day, I love my house, I love my nest, and all the world, this nest is best. And she made it up, of course. There was no notation. She made up the song. So one day, my uncle read the book to my little sister instead of my mom. And he did not sing. He did not sing it the same way my mom did. My sister was not happy.
Oh.
Like, that's not how the song goes. So yes, my mom's the best story reader, for sure.
Awesome. Paula.
Well, I thought about that, and it's like as a little kid, of course, my mother's been gone for 25 years. But as a kid, my mother was a little bit on the sassy side.
Oh.
And I know that would be hard to believe that I would have a mother like that, but she was. And I remember one time, she didn't take guff off of anybody, not even my father. And she fished, she did everything, all the things that he wanted to do. And one time, we were sitting at the table, and our house that we lived in, the dining room, the refrigerator was close to the table, and he was drinking a glass of milk and got finished with it and picked the milk glass up and tossed it to her and said, "Give me another glass of milk." And so my mom went over to the refrigerator and poured the glass of milk, and from the refrigerator tossed it back to him. So
And that's how you handle that.
yeah, so she was a little bit on the spunky side.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I like
Stood
that.
up for herself.
I like that. Okay.
Your management.
Christy.
So my mom is very calm and even keeled, and so a lot of people think that she's quiet. And so she is the one that makes all the jokes at the table. And it's not, some people look forward to making the jokes. It's very matter of fact. And she will have all of us cracking up. And I remember growing up, because she was so calm and even keeled, she would just be, when she get animated, and we all would just crack up and say, "We can't take you seriously." Like, what are you doing? She's like, "I'm just being Just be you. So yeah, those are some memories that I remember about my mom, but she's definitely, a lot of people don't know, like she's the joke. She's the one that makes the jokes in our family. Yeah, it keeps us laughing.
Well, let me tell you one about my mom. Growing up in St. Louis and going to the Cardinals games, she did not want to buy the concession stand food. So what she would do, she'd make us a whole pack of hot dogs and wrap them up in aluminum foil and put them in her purse.
That's a microphone.
And just walk in, and at that time, they didn't check your purses. She had hot dogs, chips, and some sodas stuffed back there.
Did she wear the bigger pants?
Now we did get ice cream. We could get ice cream, but she had our whole meal set aside. It was all in her purse, her pockets, and so yeah, that was my mom.
That's awesome.
So speaking of food, what is a favorite recipe? If your mom was in the kitchen with you right now, making something, what would be one recipe that you would make with her and you know, would just love to have?
I already know.
Uh-oh.
It's her family famous French toast. It is not complicated, but I think the simplicity is what makes it so good. And so now when she goes to any of the grandkids' house, it's not our house, it's grandkids' house. So she has to make it, but she makes it in bulk because it freezes perfectly.
Oh.
And so it's like she's there even when she's not. It's good. Yeah, it's really good.
Anybody else? Got a favorite recipe?
Well, if I could sit down with my mother right now for a meal, right now my mouth is starting to salivate thinking about it. It's gonna sound so crazy. Brown beans, cornbread, fried potatoes, and a sweet onion, and a big glass of milk. To me, that is my mother and comfort food. You know, that if I was gonna pick a meal that I would say I'll sit down with my mother and eat, it would be brown beans, cornbread, and fried potatoes, and a nice big onion.
An onion?
Hmm?
An onion?
And a sweet
And
onion.
a sweet onion, yeah, a sweet onion with
Not
the,
fried?
no, not fried,
Okay.
potatoes fried, onion raw,
Ah,
Okay, but it's a
with the
sweet
cornbread, yeah, oh,
Now I need to-
chopped up on the, yeah, he did, yeah.
I'm just looking at your face.
It was so good.
Transported.
Yeah.
She's back in time.
Yeah, it's like I'm sitting at that dining room table where the milk flies, eating cornbread and beans.
Oh, okay. Anybody else got one?
I was thinking, my mom, she's a cook. She's more of a baker, but she's a cook. She went to school. Shout out to Clark Atlanta. She went to Clark Atlanta, but her goal was to be, you know, to own a restaurant. Like, she's a cook. And so she can cook many things, but I would say, for me, she makes the best peach cobbler
Oh, that's a favorite of mine.
world. I've never, even, you know, you taste other people's, it's not the same. I love my mom's peach cobbler, so that's my favorite. When she cooks it, I actually have to ask her, Mom, can you cook me? You know, she's like, what do you want? I want a peach cobbler.
Oh,
Just personalized
sounds
for
good.
me. And so that's my favorite dish that she makes.
Do you top it with ice cream?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Must.
Sounds good. That sounds good.
Well, the cornbread reminded me, that was like what I had thought about for my mom, that, she makes the best, and you've had it, the best cornbread dressing that you have ever put in your mouth. And then she keeps improving it. Like last year, I was like, Mom, how do you make a cornbread dressing? She's like, oh, well, now I added sausage. And it's just, you know, it just keeps getting better So one of my goals in life is to make my cornbread dressing as good as my mom's.
It's
It's amazing.
So we have all of these meals. We have a complete meal.
That's it.
And dessert.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's go. Kitchen's ready.
I'm ready.
I'm right
Well,
behind you.
as we're talking about our moms, what influences do you see in your mom that came from her mother? What do you see? How did that? I hate to use the word evolve, but how was that birthed in her? Where do you influence?
My grandmother was actually my mom's supervisor at her first job. Oh, she got away with nothing. No nepotism. She got away with nothing. And I've always heard that she was taught good work ethic, take pride in your work, and even if no one else is doing the job right, you do it right. So my mom has always been like that. She has good work ethic, and she just whatever she does, she puts her whole self into it. Later, when she was teaching me and my sisters, she also she taught us how to have good time management and how to work wisely, like order our steps. If you're going to do one thing, go ahead and put out a load of laundry. Let that be washing while you're doing something else. So, good lessons.
Anybody else?
My grandmother was a little short, chubby lady, which I probably am following in her footsteps really closely. But we called her Ma, Ma Jones. And she, my mother and her sister were like 2 years apart. But then they had a little brother that was born, my mother was probably 14 or 15. So little brother came along a lot later in life. And my grandmother was one of those women that I can remember getting spanked by Ma one time with a switch. And I said it would never happen again because she broke it off of the bush in the yard and I got it used on me. But Ma, I never got in the car with her to go anywhere, but that Ma was singing or humming to herself, Rock of Ages, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. I mean, there were her favorite songs that she hummed constantly, and that contentment that Ma had in the Lord. But because she had a child later in life, my mother was a very good cook, and my aunt, but not so good a housekeeper. My aunt was a very good housekeeper, but not so great a cook. And so it was like, Mom, you both grew up with Ma Jones. Why is it like this? And she said, well, when Jimmy, their little brother, came along, Mother became in charge of cooking and food. My Aunt Pat became in charge of taking care of the house, while Ma took care of this late in life baby. And so I said, it just, that evolving of those roles in that family, but we were a very close-knit family. We always ate with each other, did things with each other, but Mother learned to cook, and housekeeping wasn't important to her. Aunt Pat learned to housekeep. Cooking, but I felt sorry for my cousins. But that steady on, Ma was always that steady, always steady on, very, very quiet, but when she spoke, you listened or you laughed because it was something important. Yep.
The influences of your grandmother in your mom's life.
Yeah. So my mom had a unique childhood where she was not raised by her mom. She was actually raised by her aunt or great aunt because they didn't have any children. And my grandmother and her were still close, but my grandmother moved to Florida and she started a new life there. And with that being said, her and my mom didn't grow up close. I should say they how can I, you know, you grow up, you see them once or twice a year, a few times a year, but I think there was a lot of questions that she had and things that she wanted to know that I think they didn't really have that conversation until she was older. So my great aunt raised her, so I think she got the best of both worlds. Where my great aunt, when she was older, she worked for a family in the neighborhood, a white family, and my mom was blessed with she got the best of both worlds. Like my uncle, he pretty much grew everything that we ate. They ate, and he would take it to town on Saturdays and then my aunt, like I said, she cleaned the house, cleaned houses. She took care of her family. And then my grandmother in Florida, she had a lot of jobs, but she became a beautician and things like that. So I think that she was able to get a little bit more from my grandmother the older she got. And they became close. Whereas when my great aunt, she passed away a little earlier in my mom's life. With that being said, number one, work hard. You work very hard. You get the hard stuff done first.
That's good advice.
Yeah,
Yes.
get the hard stuff done first. Don't procrastinate. I didn't learn that. I got it from my dad, but she's not a procrastinator. She's like, let's get it done now. Keep a clean house, and always keep something in your house, like food-wise. You can make a lot with a little. You got a can of, you got a Jiffy here. You got a can of this, beans here.
Yeah.
Like, keep certain things in your house. That way, if something happens, you know that you got something. So
Very good advice.
those are some things that I remember as she, and that I got. And, our family is close, so, our aunts and, cousins, like, they always say, keep some money under your mattress. Cause you never know when somebody just, decides that they wanna go left, you can go right, okay? So yeah, always keep some money on you. And those were the things that as I learned that was taught down to her and it was taught down to me, so.
Good stuff.
Oh yes, well, my mom definitely inherited some of my grandmother's sense of humor. My grandmother loved to laugh. Loved to laugh. I remember one time we were playing a game. We were playing Taboo. Y'all remember the game Taboo? And no, it wasn't Taboo. It was the game after that. It was very, very similar. But anyway, she had to get us to. It was it's like a mixture of hot potato and taboo. I can't remember what it's called right now. But anyway, she was trying to get us to guess the word that was on the thing, and she didn't give us any clues at all. She just said, "It's so easy. It's bom 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 bom." So, but we were on the floor, and of course, like she would always just beep in her hands, like okay, now next person. That team lost again. But so yeah, she loves to laugh. Definitely pass it on to my mom. Mom was always, honestly, that's how she survived with having 7 kids, was that she just laughed at everything we did. She didn't stretch, like everything we did, she just, it's hilarious. So yeah, love to laugh for sure.
Okay.
She got that from her mom.
All right. Well, Christy, you touched on it just a little bit, and you said that some of that influence has rubbed off or been placed in you. What about the rest of you? What do you see that's come from your grandmother to your mom and now to you? What are some influences? And then as you're talking about that, how have those influences impacted you in your career? If you've worked or you know, just dealing with people in general?
I'd have to go back to the work ethic, because that was instilled in me, and then knowing how to, you know, again, order my time, stuff like that, that came in handy when I had my own company, 3 small kids, you know, trying to do everything and be everything to everyone, you know, that's not perfectly ever, but that was so important, very helpful, yeah.
Paula?
My mother was a very, she was not an educated woman. She graduated from high school, but she was very smart, and she was one of those people that you would never know if she was upset really, but she was intense about whatever she did to do it to her best. And determined. She always had a determination in her. My grandmother grew up hard. They worked hard on the farm, but she always had that determination. And I think that probably that attitude, strong will, is what probably is something that I would say that my grandmother and my mother both had. Very strong wills of staying focused, what you have to do, and not crying sob stories to somebody else, just going ahead and doing it. And so I think I have a strong will. Now it depends on if it's saying no to chocolate, but I believe I do. Or so, you know, I have a strong will in, if I set my mind to do something, I'm gonna accomplish it. And I think that came from my grandmother and my mom, especially my mother. And, you know, the determination that when things don't go the way you think they should in your life, you go ahead and you do what you can do to change that. And that, I think, kind of drove me then to not let the setbacks that occur in our lives because we make stupid decisions that we end up having to pay for, or we get involved with people that are not the right people for our lives, or whatever those situations are, that you don't let those define you or to drag you down. You go ahead and rise above those and go on and become more and better. And I had moved back to our hometown that I grew up in Missouri, and had gotten a job at a daycare and realized I loved working with children. And then I said, I think I'm gonna go back to school, and became determined. And through the course of life, my father passed away, and my mother had her neck broke in a wreck. So the doctors had said to us, she'll never walk again. And you know, it was like, he told her, and she looked at him and said, well, you're wrong. And she walked again. But she couldn't do things. She couldn't hold down a full-time position or a job or anything, but she could walk, she could take care of herself. So when I went back to college, my mom took care of my kids. We moved her into our house. We built a room for her in our house, and she was my encouragement. I would come home I ran a daycare center, and then I did substitute teaching. And I would come home at night after teaching or whatever. She would have celery with peanut butter in it and a bag of carrots ready for me, and hand it to me as I went out the door to get in the car to drive to night school to take my classes. but she was my cheerleader, you can do it, I'm so proud of you, you know, and so it's almost like that when I got my first degree, that my mother's name should have been on the diploma. Because if it hadn't have been for her influence and she was not one of those women that was like, oh, you're doing such a great job, you just keep it. But she was there that the celery with peanut butter and carrots ready to go because she knew I wasn't gonna have time to eat supper. But that I was gonna have time between classes, and I didn't have the money, we didn't have the money for me to go buy something. But as I would sit in the car between classes or sit somewhere waiting for our next class to start, I had my peanut butter and celery and my carrots that my mother had fixed for me so that I could eat and then go to school. And so she was that pushing, gently, that influence that said, get that, you can do it, you know. And so that, to me, I became a teacher because my mother was there to help influence me as an adult, even still, to go back to school and to get that degree, and was just, like I said, it was just as proud of me as if it had been her walking across the stage to get a diploma.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Christy?
The influence that my mom had on me, looking back at her childhood and then my childhood, she wanted to, because she didn't grow up with a lot, she wanted to make sure that we had. And she wanted to break a lot of the generational curses that were on our family, on our family. Not in a negative way, but there's just certain things that she saw that she didn't want for us, my brothers and I. And it was overbearing because I felt like her and my dad was very hard on us, and we didn't have the opportunity to interact, you know, a lot with our family. But I understood overall what they were trying to do, where they were trying to instill something that they didn't see, and they wanted us to dream bigger. They wanted us to do more. They wanted us to rise higher. They wanted us to get the education. They didn't want us to settle. And I think that my mom wanted that for us, and she sacrificed a whole lot. So I saw her work hard, and I think that's what caused me. I didn't like school growing up, so I'll start there. I hated school because I didn't quite understand. Things didn't quite click for me as it did for some of the other kids. So I felt like I was always behind the beat. No, a lot of that was because I was very distracted. But I would say once I got to college, like things just started clicking for me, and it just started, like, it was just like, oh, this is what she meant, this is what, so it started getting easier and easier. And so I remember I was going to the to bursar's office to pay tuition and whatnot, and I didn't have enough. And she said, okay, well, she gave me her card. She said, this is for your semester of school, and it was just selfless. So anyway, I say all this to say, the influence that she had was great on me because she actually went to school to be a teacher. She went to student teaching, and she said, I cannot do this. I'm going to corporate. God bless you. And I'll never forget, She went to APS and she said, "No, I'm good."
Oh,
And so when I decided to become a teacher, and I think it was almost like looking through, she was able to live through my lens in a while.
mhm.
And I just would talk to her like, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. I really didn't see myself at all becoming a teacher. I say all that to say, I didn't see myself becoming a teacher at all, but now I'm understanding that it was almost like, I think I'm living what she probably should have done, but that's the way God ordained it. And so her influence of, working hard and understanding like to put the hard things first, and with the procrastination, like how everything just kind of started clicking for me as I was in school. And so her influence for me was like, don't stop, don't give up, keep pushing. And it was almost innate because I was like, Mom, like she had to pay for school herself. She had to figure it out. She would be at the financial aid office. she said, I stayed there until they gave me a job. She said, I didn't stop because I knew I couldn't go back home. So I had to make it happen. And so I'm learning that, and I'm still learning that, like, you have to figure it out and you have to make it happen. So I guess her influence, I would ask her questions a lot, and I would just talk to her, and thankfully she would, be honest with me. And I think her influence is really heavy on me because I'm understanding all the sacrifices that she made for me and how that is influenced in my everyday life.
Yeah.
And what I do for my kids, what I do even for my family, my nieces and nephews, even what I do for extended family. So that was a long answer, but
No.
As you were talking, I was thinking, just by listening to what you were saying and the history, it's like she exchanged those generational curses for a legacy of resilience. What a beautiful gift she gave you.
thank you. Perfectly said. Perfectly said. Yeah. I think she wanted to give us something that she never had, and I think that seeing that now, it paid off.
So as you're thinking about this, what's one word that you can say about your mom's influence that's propelled you to be the woman that you are today?
I say love. Like, no one loves like my mom, and everybody says, oh, my mom, okay. But like, she loves from somewhere down so deep, and she has such a big heart, and she's willing to expand it, and, whoever else, she had 7 children, so, and then now she got 2 grandchildren, and she's, I think if she wanted to have 15 grandchildren, she would be thrilled, like, so she just very much love, and that love, always encourages, like, no, you gotta go on, no matter how hard life gets, like, you keep going,
That's what I'd say too, determination though. Because it was the same, it's just like, no matter what happens, you keep looking forward, you keep marching on,
I think with my mother, it would have to be tenacity. Things would happen, and everybody around would be all in a tizzy, and my mother would say, well, it could always be worse. And then tell us how it could always be worse, and it was like, okay, well, I guess I will stop my whining, but then now, even now, my sisters and I will say to each other, it could be worse. And it's like, all right, Mom, you hear that voice in your head, and there were many times I wish I still had her, so I could call. There have been many times I've wanted to tell her. I wanted to tell her about my 11 grandchildren, and share with her what my children have done, her grandchildren have done, but that tenacity of looking for the positive in everything, because it could always be worse. And you're not, you know, we had nothing growing up. Our family was 4. You know, there were 3 girls, I was the youngest, I was the baby, and the other 2 were 10 and 7 years older than me, so I was almost like an only child. But, you know, we did not have a lot growing up. I hated the shoes I had to wear to school, but that was what my mother and dad could afford, and it was like, you got these and you're gonna wear them, they're good shoes, and you can go to school, because there are kids out there who wish they had those shoes.
That's right.
So it was like, okay, it can always be worse.
Be worse.
Yeah.
Christy?
I would say, one word. Meekness? Correct me if I'm wrong, is that quiet strength?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I would say meekness to describe my mother. I think the dynamics in my household, like I saw one, because she is quiet, and then I saw my father, he wasn't quiet. he voiced his opinion, but I saw that you can draw more, I think the Proverbs is, you can draw more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. And I learned that you can struggle, but still have strength.
So as you're thinking about that, how are you using that one word in the lives of other women? How are you impacting other women with that one word through you? That quiet strength. Come on, Christy.
I've learned that there are just some battles that have to be fought on your knees in prayer. And as
Which
much
mountain to die on?
and as much as I would like to crash out, rah, 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 you can't tell me, I have learned that you have to allow God to fight your battles. And my mother has taught me that if you just sit and be still and let the Lord fight for you, He will do it in His time. So I would say that has been I'm still learning, but that has been more potent in the last 5 to 7 years for me, to see that in different seasons of life, but still the same grace. And I've asked God to give me that same grace. It might look a little different, but I'm praying that I have the same.
I think that my mother's tenacity and her strong will has carried me through my life in a lot of different circumstances. It made me decide, you know, when I got my first degree, that I was gonna go further, and got my master's and then my specialist in education and was a principal. And then to leave the principalship at the time I did, when I really didn't want to, but the government was pressing hard on us through the Department of Education to get test scores higher. And so I left that job, but then went to another job at a college. And to be there and not be happy, or not being where I wanted to be, but then thinking about, well, it could be a whole lot worse. But being put in a situation for me to pour into a young lady that later graduated and has been like nominated for Teacher of the Year in her school, large school district in Missouri, multiple times, and for her to say, if you hadn't come into my life, I would have dropped out of college. I don't know where I would be. And it's like, you know, looking it over, it could have been worse, and I look back now and go, God, you really knew what you were doing. You knew that I needed to leave that job because you knew she needed me here. And thank you for showing that to me right now, that that's what you wanted me to do. But I think in anything, trying to help to develop the relationships with people that makes them trust you so that you can pour into them. And that still takes tenacity, because it can get easy to give up on people and say, I've washed my hands of them, I'm not gonna help them. I'm not gonna do anything for them. Looking at them and seeing their flaws and trying to overlook those and go on to where you feel like you're helping them get to where God wants them to be. And so I've been blessed to be a part of the women's ministry in our church and a mentor. And these two ladies are my friends now because of the mentoring process. And I was both of your mentors at one point in time. And just hopefully that I poured into them that it can always be worse. God's got a plan for us. We'll get through this. God's always there to help us, and I think that I can see that little stubborn streak and ornery streak that sometimes can come out in me too.
I'm gonna piggyback on what you said about fighting battles on your knees, because that is one way that my mom demonstrates her love for her family, and she got it from her my great-grandmother, and that's where she fights her battles, is on her knees, and she prays. And I know that we are reaping the benefits of her prayers, you know, just how she never gives up on praying for us. And I don't even know all the things that she's praying for, but when she prays, I know she's doing battle. And she is not just flippantly like, oh, Lord, bless my family. Like, no, she is like getting God's attention and praying. So she's passed that down to me. And like when I have a bunch of ladies that I pray for every day, you know, some of them are in this room, you know, it's like, Lord, it's like I'm praying specific things, like, Lord, you know what needs to happen, Lord, pray for this, or pray for that, Lord. And when I tell my friends I'm praying for them, I'm not just being like, Lord, please bless. Like, no, I'm actually like praying. And same for my family. Now, as me being the oldest of my siblings, I'm like, I am lifting my siblings up before the Lord, lifting my niece and nephew up for the Lord. And just, that she passed along that legacy to me, for sure.
Well, with determination, I think about my own children. I have 2 daughters and a son, and they've each had their own struggles in life. 2 of my kids have special needs, and just teaching them, even when it's hard, even if things aren't clicking, you just keep moving. Don't give up. Don't give up. And I feel like I got that from my mom.
That's good.
I want to add too, I think that those are the things that draw people to us, these things that we've talked about. And it gives us an opportunity to shine the light that God has given, or whatever God has put on our hearts. And it was so funny, before I came here today, I actually had prayed for one of my coworkers, and I don't know what it was, but God knew what it was. Like, it was just divine timing. And I think it was just one of those things, like we talked and, we prayed, she cried, and we prayed. And I think I'm starting to understand that even in the midst of the prayers that we pray, like, we don't understand why, but we know that God puts them on our heart, you know, whether it's a coworker, whether it's even one of my kids, like, I see it a lot. You see unfortunately, you see the poverty a lot, you see the disparity a lot, or things that they don't have. And it's like God just makes an opportunity for all these things and these characteristics that we were talking about. Just make a way for us to shine
Yeah.
those through for each person that we come in contact with. And that's been my prayer, like, God, let you illuminate whatever they see, let you illuminate this.
That is good. Yeah, I like that. I like that. We are multi-age here. And I am so just passionate about women coming together despite age. How do you feel about being here amongst all of us? And do you have an issue with, oh, I should be in this group because these people are not my age, or whatever? You know, how can we tear down the age?
We're not the same
Sorry.
age. I don't know. We haven't even looked at IDs.
Sorry, Paula.
I don't know who you're talking about. Well, we have one person who has an issue.
We're all 25 here.
Gilly. 18.
18, okay.
18.
I think if you are stuck in your age group, your world's way too small.
Mm.
It's way too small. You can't gain perspective. You can't even be of influence. You know, all ages, all races, beautiful, and we all need each other.
It's beautiful. That was nice.
But if you can't learn from somebody younger than you, you've got a problem.
You do.
You know, but I feel like that I am still 75, still learning. And if I say, oh, well, I didn't learn anything, well, whose fault is that?
You're right.
Are you growing?
Yeah, and if I'm not learning, I'm stagnant.
That's right.
And then you just need to drain me and get rid of me. But you've got to stay learning, because if you don't, then you stagnate, then you die, then you're not productive. You're not helping anybody. And
God did not put us on this earth for that.
no, and I've got too many grandkids that I still I'm still involved in, and their lives and what they're doing and what they're learning and how they're growing, and I don't wanna, I'm not ready to stop. I'm not gonna stop, and I continue to study and learn and read. And somebody said, so have you read this book? No, I haven't, but I will. I wanna read that. I wanna see what that book's about. You've gotta keep that up. And I think that keeps you young. It keeps you vibrant and on top of what is going on around you.
Absolutely.
And you can't pray for people if you don't know what's going on. If you've got your head stuck in the sand, you're not gonna be effective as a prayer warrior for them. And so you need to know the battles they're facing. Like, you know, that my grandkids face battles that my kids didn't have to face.
I think my favorite thing growing up was actually hanging around some of the older women in my church. They were so funny. And I think they were at the age where they could say what they want, because they're older. Who's gonna check them?
It's like, oh, that poor thing, she didn't know. Bless her heart.
So Sunday after Sunday, it would be my favorite thing just to sit and talk with some of the older women in our church. And I miss them a lot because I learned a lot. And some things I didn't, a lot of things I didn't understand. I was like, what is she always complaining about her aching knees? Like, okay, I get it now. Or she wanted to say, just keep on living, you'll see what I'm talking about. And so, just things that they used to say and encourage me and just talk to me about. I learned a lot, and as you were saying, talking to someone younger, I feel like talking to somebody older, you learn so much. You learn, and if I am not learning, am I growing? Am I being the best version of myself? There's so much that I can learn. So I ask the questions. And I ask the questions, and I say, well, what was it like, growing up? And they used to tell me, and I used to say a lot of it was the same struggles, just different time.
Different time period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my life group is multi-generational, and it's just married couples. So, you don't really have some even, about to be married, just engaged. And so, we've got, but it's wonderful because we've got people who have grown children, we've got people who have grandchildren, we have people like us who don't have any kids. And it's amazing because we can learn from them. It's like, okay, you have really godly teenagers and you have godly grown people. One of your kids is a pastor. Like, how did you do it? So it's so wonderful to be able to learn. Now that we're like approaching middle age now, which is scary. It's nice to be able to learn.
When am I approaching?
Well, I figured it out, I'll tell you, I've already been there.
Oh, it's funny, middle age. Okay. Okay, that's funny. So,
Welcome to the lab.
yes.
Well, I have to stop and think. My youngest child is 40, he'll be 45 this year. And it's like, all of my children are middle-aged. Where? How did they grow up?
Right.
You know?
I'd be like,
And you're the same.
I'm not any older than I was,
Time flies.
It does.
Why is there so much hesitation with women connecting? Why do we sense that?
I think
We're
it's been
lost.
lost. I think it's been lost. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with cell phones, just your online life. I also kind of blame social media. If you feel like you can't reach the next rung on the ladder, do you really want to put yourself out there? But it's all fake. It's all facade. We need each other. We were designed for each other.
I think culture has put up a lot of lies. And it's insecurity. Of course, the root is insecurity. A lot of lies. I'm better than you, or I can't respect you. You have to look like this. You have to beat this person. You have to be this status. And we put a lot of emphasis on things that does not matter.
And our media tells us
Yes.
what we are supposed to think and act and how we're supposed to treat each other, and it's like, that came from the pit of hell.
That's right.
Yes.
It is lies. It's
Yes.
just from the pit of hell, because it's not. No, we don't have to act like that
Yes.
towards each other.
That's right.
No, we do not have to treat each other that way. Why are you telling people that if they haven't, go out and key their Teslas, and it's like,
And the thing is,
I dealt with that as a principal on the playground with third graders. You're adults, quit acting like third graders.
Yeah.
And it's just, like I said, it's a lie from the pit of hell that we can't be friends.
Yeah.
Because I'm from Missouri, you're from Georgia, you came from Louisiana, so therefore, I'm so different than you, we can't be friends. Well, no, I think if we all look at the Bible and go back to where it all started, we all go back to Adam and Eve.
Right.
And so, we are related,
That's right. That's good.
and it does not matter anything else, no.
That's good.
When I see Stephanie, I see my sweet friend Stephanie, who loves to sing, who is a teacher, and we bonded and connected on that immediately. So it's like, stop listening to the lies of the enemy, because he wants to divide us and to destroy us.
And he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
He's doing a really good job, even in our church, not necessarily our church,
Yeah,
but just church in
As
general.
church in general, yes.
That is the most divided place.
You know, the Bible says to guard your heart,
Mhm.
because from it flows the wellspring of life.
Mhm.
And so we have to guard our hearts, we have to guard our eyes. We have to be careful what we give our time to and our attention to,
Mhm.
because it will affect us.
Mhm.
I think it's, when we focus on being a blessing, when we focus on loving, we focus on, let's see how I can be a blessing. It's like all of a sudden you don't care about what they think about you.
Right.
anymore.
Right.
You know, it's like, let me see how I can minister to this person, because it doesn't matter how much you may think that they're put together,
That's right.
what kind of, how much they may think, like, oh, they're gorgeous, they're a model, like, and I'm paid to be a model, but they are one, like, I can't talk to them, or they sing more beautifully than anybody, or, whatever. It doesn't matter what they may appear to be, we're all people, and we all have needs, and everybody wants to be loved.
Mhm.
So, we just have to, like, see people, and when we focus on being a blessing, I have found that in my life, that it's like, you just don't really,
Yeah, it changes
you
your whole
don't care
mindset,
about what
doesn't
people
it?
think about as
Yeah.
much, yeah.
It makes me think of it, there's a song I sang in church, and it, basically, one of the lines was, Lord, let me see this world as though I were looking through your eyes. And so that if I can see others the way God sees them, then I will learn to love others the way God loves them.
Mhm.
And we just need to see each other like God sees us. And, the Great Commission is to love the Lord and then to love others as we love ourselves. And
And it's that simple.
it's that simple.
Oh, God,
So
people.
just looking at people through God's eyes.
Yes.
I was gonna piggyback off that as well. I think for me also, and I like to speak from a personal experience. Sometimes you gotta put yourself off of a pedestal,
Mhm.
and the entitlement that maybe somebody did you wrong. Okay, this is life. You have to, just taking yourself off of, I had to learn this, just taking yourself off the pedestal and realizing that people are people, we all have flaws, and guess what, we're all gonna continue to make mistakes until the Lord comes back.
Mhm.
So, realizing that, the Bible says, humble yourselves up under the mighty hand of God, and just, I had to put things in perspective, like, no, like, you're not entitled, you're not above,
Yes.
you're not beyond approach.
Yes.
It's okay.
It's a good lesson.
You gotta learn to forgive and move on and realize, going back to what you were saying, people, they need to be loved, they need to be seen through the eyes of God, not my eyes, but God's eyes. And I think if we take off, like you said, take off our lens and put God's lens on, I think we'll see things in a different way, so, yeah.
Because, when we get to heaven, God's not gonna say, what was your address, what
Come on.
town did you live in,
Come on.
how much money did you make?
Yeah,
He's gonna say, what did you do with my son?
Ooh, that's good,
Period.
that's good.
It's not gonna matter to him.
I'm not gonna ask who you voted for.
No.
No.
Right.
No,
So it's like, then we need to be, if we're gonna live in his kingdom, then we need to bring that kingdom here on earth.
amen.
So it does
Living
not
with
matter
eternity.
what have you done
Yes.
with Jesus.
Amen.
And if you and I are on the same page with Jesus, then
Amen. Amen.
we're best friends.
Amen. My pastor says living with the end in mind.
Yes.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, you're actually sisters because we serve a Father.
Amen.
Right.
That makes us
Amen.
sisters.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. Well, let's talk about moms again. Thinking about your mother, what features or feature, one or two, doesn't matter, stick out when you look in the mirror? When you see yourself, what do you see in you that looks like your mom?
And mom smile, definitely. She loves to smile.
Okay.
My mom and I look a lot alike, so
Oh.
same dark eyes, dark hair, the same chin, skin tone, so we look a lot alike. And sometimes now, I'm getting older, I'm middle-aged. I look in the mirror and I'm like, hey, Mama. I think I'm getting more like her.
Yeah, that I'm becoming my mother look. Or what gets me is to go back to see family. I had a cousin who passed away this last year in Arkansas, and he was my first cousin, but he was older than me. And as a child growing up, my dad called me Polly, and that was my name. And so all my cousins that are older call me Polly. And I would walk into his house, we would go back, and he lived in Arkansas, and we'd go back and see him in Arkansas. And I'd walk in, and he and his wife would go, Polly, you look just like your mama. It's like, well, I guess I do. But I know I look like an awful lot like my mother. She wasn't tall, you know. I just look a lot like her. Have the same kind of hair. Her hair never did completely go gray. But yeah, whenever you have cousins that go, oh my, you look just like your mama. Can't deny her.
I say the same. I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, hey, Sylvia. Yeah, definitely in her eyes. I definitely have her eyes. And she's given me her legs and the hips, thighs, and the butts. Thanks, Mom. So yeah, she told me the other day, she said, you getting thick. I said, thanks. That's not the plan. So,
Well, yeah, I look at pictures of my grandmother and I go, I look just like Macho. And then I look at my mother and go, well, my mother looked just like Macho.
And that's what she said. She said, thank you, Grandma. She started it all. So,
I
yeah.
understand that.
So yeah, definitely things are not fitting like I would like them to, but yeah, but my mom's pretty, so I always tell people,
She must
She is.
I say, you pretty, so I'll take it. If you were ugly, I wouldn't say anything, but you pretty. Love you, Mom.
What about mannerisms? What mannerisms or sayings come to mind? Like you're in the kitchen or just out and you just say something and, oh, my mom said that.
We sing stuff.
We do too.
Mom would always say, time for dinner. So yeah, it's like everything is a song, you know. And one day we did it randomly when we were with like mostly family, and then one friend that was, you know, claiming to be closer with our family but didn't know it's like that, and she was just like, what? And everybody else was just like, this is normal. Like they sing everything.
Yeah, we do too. It's just gone down to the next generation. If it's not a movie quote or song lyrics, we're not going to say it. And sometimes if we have to have something that we need to say and it's not already in song or in a movie, we'll just change the lyrics and make up our own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, we do that.
Yeah.
That's normal.
It's good. Paul is looking like,
Well, you know, my mother would say things during for the love of Pete. Was one of her, well, who is Pete? Why are you wanting this love? You know, that kind of thing. Good grief, Gertrude. That was, I mean, I guess that was her way of cursing. But, you know, she would say things like that. And then I said this the other day, a young lady, a friend of ours had given my name to some people that the girl needed a prom dress altered. So she said, could I bring the dress over and have her try it on? And I said, sure. So she came over and the mother was talking to me and the girl was saying, well, I would like for this to be done to it and I'd like for this to be done to it. And I said, well, I can do that. I said, you know, it's just the hem, and I'm cutting, she wanted the train cut off, and I said, I can cut the train off, and I said, besides, nobody's gonna see it on a galloping goose. And the mother started laughing, and she said, you remind me so much, she was a foreign exchange student. She said, you remind me of my foreign exchange student mother. She would always come up with sayings like that. And it was like, well, that's what my mother would say. If I don't like the way this looks, Mom, she'd say, well, nobody's gonna see it on a galloping goose. So it's like, I didn't know geese gallop. In other words, it doesn't matter. You're gonna be moving, nobody's gonna be looking at you, nobody's gonna see it.
Right, that's
So.
a perfect saying. I love that.
But we're gonna kind of go a little deeper with education, children, parents, and teachers. As educators, I know I have 3, I'm not sure, Amanda, did you? Okay. But you have influence with children. How have the influences of your mom impacted the children that you've worked with in school, church, you know, just in general? How has it been an impactful moment for children?
Make sure they're each seen, you know, make sure I know their names. Mom's very careful, like she didn't want any of us to get lost, you know, there's 7 of us. So, you know, still to this day, she's like, Krista, we're going out for lunch, you know, or, you know, let's make it happen. Or, you know, she wants, you know, so I'll be like, okay, each child needs to be seen. They're not just a name on my spreadsheet, my endless spreadsheets, because I used to run summer camp and after school. It's like, no, they are one of our children, and they will be acknowledged, and I will know their name. So, yeah, they're just being seen.
I remember my mama said that for a long time, she thought that she was her grandmother's only child, and she had several grandchildren, but for a long time she just thought that because her grandmother made her feel so special. And my mom taught me to do that, and now that I'm a grandmother of 2 perfect boys, perfect, I really see how important that is. You know, that each one feels loved just for them and how God made them.
That's good.
Yeah, my mother was the kind of grandma that if she knew you were coming, she fixed whatever was your favorite. Because you were she wanted everybody to be special. And as a teacher, I tried to do that with my kids in my classroom. That they you know, with the last name of Seal, they could be the super seal. And I had this ugly little red seal with a ball in its nose, that when they were the super seal, they got to have that seal on their desk for the entire week. And it was like, you would have thought that was a gold-plated Oscar. And then I would eat lunch with them in the classroom, just the 2 of us together. And that, I learned more about the kids in my classroom from that simple act of giving them that attention than I did in any other way with them. But my mother would make us feel special. My mother made my clothes. She taught me then to sew. So she was a service person. She served other people. And I think she instilled that in me then as a teacher, but then as I became a principal, knowing the kids in the class and trying, maybe not knowing. I have 400 and some odd kids in my building, and there were a few of them I may not have been able to give you their first and last name, but for the most part, I either knew their first name or their last, and for the most part, everybody's first and last. Of course, those who came to see me more often, I knew them really well. But just being able to know them and call them by their name in the hallway, and acknowledge that, you know, it's important to be here. I'm glad to see you're here at school today. Just whatever you can do to make kids build that relationship with them, because then when you do that, then when they have a need, they're gonna come to you and tell you what they need, especially if they have an issue that needs attention of a caring adult. They're gonna come and let that out to you.
You guys said a lot. I think I am that feeling seen. Sometimes it's hard when you have so many kids, but I do, especially, I work with special needs children, so for me, I don't want them to be disabled. Right? They have a disability, but they're not disabled.
They are not their diagnosis.
So, for me, I would, and I did it because my mom did, you know, we didn't have special needs, no, but my older brother, he had a very high IQ at the age of 5, but he was a behavior problem because he was bored, right? So, you know, my mom went in and she knew what it was. He was pretty smart, but they thought he needs special ed. They tested him, they said, oh, he has a high IQ. She said, I know, he's very smart. She's like, so you have to teach him. She said, you probably have to give him extra assignments and to alternate the behavior. So with that being said, as a teacher, I want to challenge my students that you are not your disability, that you are going to do above and beyond. Not what we think as a right, but you want to not settle for what people think.
That's right.
And I'm very big on that because I've noticed that even though a lot of children have a disability, they disable them by telling them, well, no, you won't go past, you know, whatever.
They lower
this
their
is.
expectations.
They lower the expectations
And that's
for the
wrong.
students, and I feel like that is so, I'm very passionate about that because I've seen students go so far. I had a student who had autism, dual autism, but he was also gifted. The child had principal's list by the time the end of the year rolled around. You are not your disability. You just made differently. You're just, and for me, I'm very big on that, so I don't want my students to settle into they just have a disability. I want them to rise above and say, I have a disability, but that doesn't define where I'm gonna go.
Right.
So I want my students, and the goal is to think bigger, to do better, to do more than what I even did. And your disability is something on a piece of paper, but it's not who you are. So
Can we copy you? Somehow, we need more teachers like you.
Well, that's, you know, though, that, for kids with disabilities, they really need that. But all kids need that. All of us need that. What is our expectation? Just like I said earlier, the news media has told us how they're expecting us to treat each other in America. Why are we having that kind of expectation set on us? It's not good for us. And to tell those kids, you know, I had an autistic child in 2nd grade. Mother came in the 1st year and she said to me, she said, I don't know what you're gonna do. She said, last year, all he did in class was sit under his desk and make animal noises. And I said, well, he won't in my class. And he and I butted heads, but I had a stronger head than he did. I got that from my mother. And
tenacity.
yeah, tenacity. And by the time he left my class, I was telling the 3rd grade teacher, you really need to start the paperwork to fill out for Denver because he needs to be in the gifted program.
Mm.
But first grade, he sat under his desk and made animal noises all year long, and they said he couldn't learn anything, and it was like, well, that was, Mrs. Seal had a different expectation, and but even now, at our age, my age, you mid-age women,
Don't call them that.
Yeah.
Not there yet.
do we not, does that not even motivate us if people set an expectation for us to do?
I love being the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
I love being the underdog. I tell people all the time, me
Yeah.
being the underdog is my favorite.
Yeah,
That's
I've
when
got a
you're
Gonna go
grandson,
win.
I blew them
Yeah.
out the water.
I've got
I
a
try my
grandson
best.
that you don't ever
Yeah.
say to him, you can't.
Mhm. That's
Mason,
motivation.
oh, you don't ever tell him you can't,
Yeah.
because it is like, oh, well, just sit back and watch, and that's great,
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
that's great.
That's good. This has been really good, and we're almost done. This has been so much
It's gone
fun.
so fast.
It has, really. This has been fun. If you had to describe your mother as being ageless, how would you do it? Your mom is ageless, so define ageless for me when you're talking about your mom.
Wonder Woman?
Wonder Woman. Oh. Why is that?
Because she still can do anything. I mean, anything. Hey, now she'll tell me she can't do it. But she'll figure it out. Yeah. So she makes lemons out of lemonade. What's it? Lemons.
Lemons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'll make, yeah. So I think she can do anything that is put in front of her.
Okay.
I think one of the things that I admire most about my mom is that she's always learning something new. She's so eager to learn something new.
Mhm.
So, I don't know, I might have to steal Wonder Woman. I don't know. Maybe.
My mom is relevant to, like, children love her, everyone loves my mom, everyone. Because she's just able to, I think because they just want to just bask in the glow of who she is and feel the love and everything, but she just, because she is so good at making people feel seen, whether it's her little grandson or niece, or my niece, her granddaughter, or whether it's, her Georgia grandmother, as she calls her, who's also Paula, which is awesome, or, whoever it is, like, she, like, all ages just love her.
She
So that
sounds
makes
like
her
a real
ages.
nurturer.
She is. Yeah.
Since Wonder Woman's already taken,
Twice.
to me, my mother was not she was not beautiful in terms of what we say in society is beauty. And she had like I said, she had a high school education. But my mother was classy in her own right, in her demeanor, the way she carried herself. As she got older, she lived with us for 16 years. She never went to church without a hat on. And people still will say, I can remember your mama coming in, this sweet little thing with a red hat on or a pink hat on. And so whenever we were having to take care of her stuff after she passed away, my kids all wanted one of Grandma's hats.
Oh, yes.
Because that was just something about her that regardless of her demeanor, of her status in life, she always carried herself with class.
Nice. It's really special.
Okay, can I take mine back? Sure. Okay, she was still Wonder Woman.
Okay.
She couldn't do everything. So when she didn't know how to do something, she would call somebody. She was like, okay, let me call somebody because I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, that's it.
Oh,
That's also
That's a good
That's
one.
good.
I would say that. I would say that.
she's willing to ask for help.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
awesome.
That's good. So let's move to this question. If you had to choose a spice to identify your mom, what spice would it be and why did you choose that one? A spice. Oh, you're staring at me. You're
I'm thinking of all this, my mother was salt. She just can make everything taste good, be good. It can always be worse. So let me put the salt on it to make you, that this is okay. It's just a simple spice, but without it, things are bland. I don't care how much other spices you put in it, everything has to have salt.
And baked goods, right?
Mhm.
Cakes have that.
You can't, nothing is good without salt. Ice cream, when I make homemade ice cream, I put salt in it.
She should have gone last.
Did you steal yours?
No, I was thinking like sriracha mayonnaise or something. My mom, she's good and little umami, but every once in a while she'll have that kick, that little sriracha in there.
I would say cinnamon, because she can be spicy. You know, if you consider cinnamon spicy, you can put cinnamon in savory or sweet dishes. Obviously, you can put it in apple pie, you can put it in chili, and all kinds of stuff. So she can be warm and give you all the feels, and then she can also be savage and put you in your place if you need to.
That's that mama of 7 kids
Yes.
though.
Right.
She doesn't have a lot of time, so she's gonna cut right to
Right,
it.
she can tell you like it is if she needs to. So, yep, cinnamon.
This is a hard one.
That was hard.
She's spicy, but I can't say cayenne. What's one that brings everything together? Curry?
Curry or paprika, yeah.
Paprika's good.
She is paprika. She brings everybody together. She brings everybody together. She has a way of, kind of like you were talking about your mom, like she's classy, she's graceful. And depending on, but she has the discernment to like, depending on the person, like, are they ready for what, the truth? Or should I, or how should I gauge this? So, but she has a way of drawing people and a grace and a tact to tell them the truth and love.
Tact, that is such a good word.
Yeah. She
Y'all
was
need
really
tact.
good. Yes. I pray for it every day. I'm working on it. But I love the way that she can bring people together. That's ultimately, and she, especially like growing up, she would, with us, she would raise us the same, but attempt, like some of us needed a little bit more than the others. So it wasn't a favoritism game, it's just she knew that we needed different things and how much to give. And she was really good at it. So I would say that. Paprika.
That's good. That's really good. Well, this has been amazing. I mean, I've had such a great time, and I have one more thing to ask you about your mom. If there was one thing that she could say to women to encourage them to live life vibrantly, agelessly, and desire to connect, to grow together with other women, what would she say? Just one thing.
The thing that popped right into my head is get to know God,
Mm.
and you'll know how to treat people.
Oh, that's good.
That's what she'd say.
She would say, don't forget the most important things. Most important things are God and people.
I think my mother would do the same. It was that it's your faith. You trust the Lord and He'll work everything out.
My mom would recite Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. In Matthew 6:33, seek ye the kingdom of God. Seek ye the kingdom of God, and all of His righteousness will be added unto you. That was what she would say.
Amanda, Carissa, Paula, and Christy, you guys, I mean, thank you for doing this today. This has just been wonderful, and I love you so much. And we have to do this again.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for joining us today on Ageless, and I really appreciate having my guests here, Amanda, Carissa, Paula, and Christy. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.